Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and I am very happy to be joined by George Martinez, who is who works with Salina Liberty out of the Championship Indoor Football League, where he is the assistant head coach and assistant offensive coordinator. And to give you some information about Salina Liberty, they are based in Kansas. And Coach, thanks for being on the broadcast tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So, all right, Coach, let's talk about a little bit of background information. You said that you studied physical education from the University of Southern Colorado. Is that correct?
Yes, I did, and that's where I had the opportunity to play both football, and college baseball at that institution.
Very good. And where is the University of Southern Colorado?
It's in probably, and I'm being a little bit partial on it, but probably the best place in Colorado. It's right in the middle of Colorado. It's off of I-25 and I-50, right in the middle of it. It's about an hour and a half from Denver going south.
Okay, very good. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Coach Martinez.
Sure. What would you like to know, Scott?
Whatever you want to tell me. How about that? How did you get into coaching football despite the fact that you didn't play the game?
It comes from just a lifelong dream to do it. My father, who I wanted to talk about later, but I'll talk about him now. He was a coach himself. Not only was he a barber in town, but he also ran a semi-pro baseball team in Fort Lupton, Colorado, where we grew up half of my adolescence. And I just watched him, and my father is something that I just looked up to and watched how he conducted himself and taught people and organized it, and how successful he was as a coach. And he never coached me, which was he let other people bring me up as an athlete, which was great, because him just raising me was good enough for me, besides him being my coach. But he was an outstanding coach. So watching him do that all them years influenced me of what I would wanted to do once I got out of college.
Oh, that's amazing. I got to tell you, I played 6 years of Little League baseball, and my father coached me, and he was outstanding. I really enjoyed having my father coach. I have to admit that back in 1973, when we did win a city championship, going 21-0 in Southfield, Michigan. Thank you. And then we went to another team, and we were runner-up in another league. So, yeah, having a good father or a father figure to coach you is certainly a great way to, provide mentorship and guidance, especially at certain ages. So,
absolutely.
So, tell me, why don't you go over some of the mentors that you've had through the years, Coach Martinez?
There's been many, and I've been fortunate. In my sixth grade year, we moved to Monte Vista, Colorado, which is in the southern part of the state. It's it's in the valley, but it is in the mountains. And where my father moved us there, and I went into just heaven of coaches at a high school level, and especially a rural small town level. The man that I got to bring up first of all is Jim Perano. Jim Perano was there for years. He coached me, as you say, as a Little League coach. He left by the time I got to high school football, but he's still a friend of mine, and I communicate with him all the time. Ron Ruzick was my head coach for 2 years in high school, my head football coach. And well, my dad's my dad, but besides him, he was an uncle, a father, kept us in line, taught us discipline, taught us hard work, taught us how to win. He came from a winning organization. And my 1975, now I'm bragging, it's got a 1975. We didn't finish. We finished second in football in 1975, and that was a great run. And then the other one, and I have to just mention, he was also an assistant football coach, but he was my head baseball coach, who I just talked to on Sunday night, is Jim Blotnick. He took me under his wing. I mean, my father, I wasn't that bad in baseball, but he just took me to another level and got me ready to play college baseball.
Really? You played college baseball?
And football.
Wow. Look at this guy, a hybrid player, just like I like to see. So you played college baseball and college football, did you say?
Yes, I did.
Unreal. Very good stuff there, Coach. All right, so let's talk about some successes that have occurred over the year for Latin coaches, because I want everybody to know that one of the things about this broadcast which really intrigues me is the fact that we're going to be talking a lot about minorities involved in coaching, especially with Hispanic descent. And this broadcast will also be aired on our broadcast No Limits. So we have the Sports Exchange and No Limits. And, this is such a great thing to try to bring awareness to promoting Latino coaches in football. So let's talk about some of those successes, Coach Martinez.
Sure. For Latinos in general, I'm proud to be one and represent everything that I can with it. I mean, some of the people that I followed, the first one, well, besides my father, but one of the ones that comes to my mind right off the bat is Tom Flores. He's from Southern California. He played for the Oakland Raiders in the early '60s. He was the starter before they got Daryl LaMonica, and then he became an assistant coach for Coach Madden, and then became the head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And I believe he has either 3 Super Bowl rings. He won 2 on his own, and then I think he won one when he was coaching with Coach Madden. And it just inspired us. I mean, everywhere in the community. I mean, if you're Latino and you're watching it, and yes, I'm a Bronco fan, but how could you not pull for somebody that we know what he has done to get where he is? So he's the first one that comes to mind, and then of course Coach Ron Rivera. I mean, he's gonna get his, and they're just outstanding people. I forget the name, and you can help me with this. I forgot him. Dang it! The one out of I'll think of it. I'll think of it before the broadcast is over. But he's a college coach, and he did great as well as a college coach, Latino.
Well, that's fine. We certainly have plenty of time. I like the fact that you brought up Coach John Madden. John Madden, I think a lot of people realize that he is Mr. Raider early on. Went on to, when he left the Raiders, had a great broadcasting career. But Tom Flores, I don't think gets a lot of credit for what he's done. He really doesn't.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. I believe that.
Well, I do too. He just doesn't. He doesn't go ahead and get the recognition that he definitely deserves. So, yeah, Daryl LaMonica. Yeah, those are some pretty good Raiders teams back in those Super Bowl days.
Absolutely. Tons of talent. Like all of us coaches, we're at this level. Everybody can coach. You just try to surround yourself with as much talent and talent that want to listen and do what you're asking them to do, and success possibly can come your way.
Yeah, well, those are certainly good role models for sure. Again, I'm amazed that Tom Flores had the success. I believe he went ahead and coached not only the Raiders, but I think he went on and took a job with the Seattle Seahawks later on as well.
You're exactly right, Scott.
Yeah, well, I follow my NFL, Coach. I'm telling you. I have to. I've been around the league for the better part of 35, 40 years.
Well, yes, you have.
Well, I got to tell you, the first coach I ever worked with, Coach Martinez, was Don Shula. And I'll tell you, Don Shula was a very intimidating presence if you're a young guy. But then I finally got used to him. He got used to me, and I learned a lot. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit, Coach Martinez, about how important it is for the NFL to play games in Mexico, the international series.
I just think it just and since they're our neighbor, and they right now have some I'll call it what it is. No disrespect to anybody, but they are trying to have a professional league in Mexico, in which they have ball players from the United States or all over the world go play in their league, and which is a good league. They're doing what they can to promote football in a soccer nation, and they're doing a good job with it. With the facilities they have, the cities that provide the events for it, I think it'd be great. And the teams that we send to Mexico to play matches with it completely.
Well, anytime you're going to send the Raiders there, they'll draw anywhere. Of course,
yes, they will.
The Oakland Raiders will draw anywhere, but now they're no longer the Oakland Raiders, they're the Las Vegas Raiders. So I don't know about you, but everybody's going to get tongue-tied there.
I got to get used to it.
You and everybody else. I can't tell you how many times people have messed up San Diego Chargers when they moved to L.A., but
I got to get used to it.
Well, you and everybody else on this whole worldwide planet, but the Arizona Cardinals, since they're a border state in Mexico, is always a good fit. Or any team that needs a new stadium is more than willing to give up a home game in an 80 to 100,000 seat stadium. But yeah, you definitely bring up some incredible names. But yeah, I think it's important that the NFL does play games in Mexico. They really do, since, again, they are basically in North America.
Oh, no doubt. The altitude is great for it. The weather's great for it. If you've ever been to Mexico, you're gonna love it. It's visitor friendly, and it's an attractive spot to go visit.
Well, I've been to Acapulco, Mexico, and Cancun, Mexico, so yeah, it definitely is a pretty cool place.
Scott, I apologize. I know we're live, but you asked me about my mentors, and I just went over my high school mentors. I got some people I do need to list. That way they're not offended, if that's okay.
Absolutely, Coach. Go for it.
All right. Well, of course, my college coaches is Coach Friedman. He's the one who signed me to my football scholarship. Joe Slavko out of Kansas. My defensive coordinator, Bill Jacobs. My defensive back, Coach Huron. And then my people who hired me when I was looking for a high school job is Oliver Lucas. Out of he coached at the University of Colorado, out of Southern California, and Brent Cottrell, who is out of Kansas here. They hired me, and then Coach out of CU, Coach Barnett, Coach John Embry, and then just the people that I coached with is Tim Cross, Coach Ron O'Neill, and Coach Colin Sanders. I just didn't want. So they don't get that I didn't mention their names.
Oh, no, of course, Coach. I mean, I one of the things I like to talk to people about, who are your mentors? Who are the people that helped you get to where you're at? I mean, come on, this is an opportunity to acknowledge them. If you come up with 3 or 4 more later in the broadcast, bring them out there. You don't have to ask me.
Well, just a couple of ADs, but also like I said, my dad, but my sister, Carrie Sanchez, and Dr. Frank Lucero.
Did you say Coach Gary Barnett?
Yes.
Yeah, he out of the University of Colorado, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Gary Barnett was one heck of a coach, that's for sure.
He was a great man, too. And then, John Embry, I just don't think they gave him enough time to do what they asked him to do at the University of Colorado. And he was just cut short a little bit, and he given that 3rd year, it could have changed a little bit of things at the University of Colorado. That's just an opinion. Well,
no, I mean, University of Colorado is a very sound football program. I've always admired the work that Gary Barnett's ever done with all of his staff. So I'm glad that you mentioned Coach Barnett. So you talked about Ron Rivera, Coach Martinez, and he had a good run with the Carolina Panthers and is now the face of the Washington Redskins. Why don't you go into more detail about what your thoughts are of Ron Rivera?
Phew. He came up Chicago Bear, Super Bowl, decided once again, and we're going to get to that conversation, Scott, about how do people get to the NFL? How do Latinos get to the NFL? Well, a lot of them. I mean, Ron Rivera had all the assets that you're going to need to get to that level. Did he take advantage of them? Absolutely. His education, his athleticism, his desire, he got there. He did it. I mean, all of them. I mean, Jeff Garcia, Anthony Munoz, Tony Gonzalez. We're talking about people with incredible athletic talent. But did they rely on that and just let it? No, they kept working at it. They seen who they had to compete against. They seen who they got to go against each and every day to get to that level and to perform at that level. And they did it. They did it. Yes, with a lot of help with coaching and physical work and everything, but it still takes that desire and that hunger and that break to get to that level.
You know, I'm glad you brought up Jeff Garcia and Anthony Munoz. These are guys that I don't think they get the credit that they deserve, and I've always been specifically fond of Anthony Munoz. Why don't you go into more? I'm sorry, what's that, Coach?
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, give me more on Anthony Munoz. I think he obviously earned his stripes. And here's the thing. He played for a bad organization, the Cincinnati Bengals, too.
Yes. Watching him and, once again, idolizing him, growing up and wanting to become not an offensive tackle, but an NFL Latino football player such as he did. Just admired him, his work ethic, talked to people about how he did it. I mean, he was an incredible athlete in high school and got the full ride to the University of USC and did what he is required to do and was a first-round draft choice and a 13-year veteran of the NFL and a Hall of Famer. All right. That's just an incredible story.
That is. Let's go back to Ron Rivera. We talked about the run he had with Carolina. It was a really good run that got him to the Super Bowl. And, of course, now he's the face of the Washington Redskins. And of all the people, and I'm going to call them the Redskins until they get a new name. I'll deal with it for now.
I get you.
But I know that'll change in a matter of weeks. But Ron Rivera is being entrusted by Dan Snyder to help him come up with a name, and he looks more like the face of that franchise. I don't think, with all the bad moves that Snyder's ever made, this may be one of his better acts, bringing on Ron Rivera, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, solid coach, great background, work ethic, brings control to the locker room, brings control to the offices. When you are the face of the organization, such as my head coach, Haran O'Neal, it's the vibe, not the vibe, but just the attitude that you bring into it on a daily basis. Not only just the football organization, but the organization, the owners, everybody. When you have that type of personality and can bring a little bit out of each and every one that you don't have, it's something that, I mean, everybody wants to strive to get.
Okay, Coach Martinez, tell me this, okay? Is the NFL doing enough to promote the minority hirings pertaining to the Rooney Rule?
Yes. I believe they are. I just believe that there's a couple of friends, and I can't name their names, but who have had interviews, and did they get hired from that organization? Maybe not, but then they got another interview because they were hired. So they said, why don't we take a look at this individual? They take a look at the individual. They take a look at his past. They take a look at what he's accomplished and then what he is about. I mean, his education, his experiences, who he's coached under. They go, dang, this ain't bad. And then he gets the opportunity, and once you get the opportunity, you best take advantage of it.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I know for a while, okay, the NFL didn't have a lot of minority hirings. I think it doesn't hurt that guys like Tony Dungy have certainly helped the cause a little bit.
Lovie Smith, all of them. I mean, I'm fans of it. I mean, even Singletary, he got a shot at being ahead. I mean, you do with what you get the opportunity to do with. You just try your best.
Well, Mike Singletary, I'll tell you, I always thought he was a fine player for sure. And, again, he's a hard-nosed player, and more power to him. He's had some success. He's obviously known for his days in the Bears.
Oh, I'm a fan of his. I just watched a video of him teaching high school kids, so I'm still a fan.
Yeah, well, Tony Dungy is definitely a role model in a sense. So let's go on to the fact that, first of all, are there enough good Latino coaches to coach pro football in the NFL, qualified and good enough? Tell me where you...
I believe there is.
Okay.
I believe there is. Once again, it's the choice of the individual. A lot of these great coaches, I mean, the thing about it, Scott, people tend to forget a lot of these coaches that are in high school and have phenomenal accolades in college, all that. They get a good job, they're coaching, and they'll get offers to go to colleges. They're really not interested in it because they're just trying to settle down in their college careers and make something of a family. And of that aspect there's some of that. There's some that don't get the opportunity, and but I just believe that answering your question, absolutely, there's many Latinos out there that can coach in the NFL, and I know that for a fact because they're winning state titles, they're winning national titles, they're outstanding offense, defensive coordinators. Yes, that question would be yes.
So that you say there are enough good ones, but you say a lot of it depends on personal choice, desire about whether they want to go.
Yes, but yes, are they qualified and knowledgeable and creditable? Oh my gosh, yes, it's fun to be around them. Wow. And I learn something from each and every day when I meet them.
Well, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like coaching is the most stable profession on the planet either.
No.
What do the average coaches have, like 5 or 10 stops over the course of their lifetime? So all I can say for anybody getting into coaching, you better have a good mover. And if you're married, you better hope that your wife helps you pack pretty well, because you're going to be changing area codes an awful lot. Because, the NFL, you're moving around. When your headband goes down, then they're looking to bring in new people. And colleges, there's a lot of turnover as well. So there's no question about whether you prefer to stay stable. It's one thing. If you don't mind moving around, then I guess. So do you think that that's really what determines a lot of these guys, or whether they don't prefer to move around, they like to be more stable and they're happy doing what they're doing?
I can't talk for anybody on that, Scott. Answering the question is there is multiple Latinos that can go out there and coach in the NFL. Absolutely, they could. Yeah,
well, that's fine. And like I said, but it's no secret, though, Coach Martinez, that coaching isn't the most stable profession. You're going to move around, for sure. So that's fair enough. Yeah, hey, listen, we're here to on this broadcast promote hopefully Latinos getting more opportunities, and I think that's what makes it such a very enjoyable conversation with you, that at least you feel that there are a lot of good ones out there that will go ahead and stimulate things. I'll tell you something that many years ago I did, and I think this is something that we can feel good about. Well, when I had an auto racing show out in the Phoenix, Arizona area, I once did a show on whether there are enough... What's that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Whether there were enough African Americans, there should be more African American drivers in NASCAR, and it was a good broadcast, and I thought it was just designed to bring awareness to it. And I think that this situation parallels the same thing. Only I guess the difference with auto racing is it's pretty expensive to get involved in. There's a lot of hoops, but it's all about promote minorities, and that's what we're really standing for. So now with that said, okay, let's talk about the Championship Indoor Football League. Tell me a little bit more about that league.
I couldn't hear you.
Let's talk about the Championship Indoor Football League. Tell me a little bit more about that league.
Sure. Right now, I would like to name the teams, but I can't because we're possibly in a position of recruiting some more. But last year we had 8 teams. We didn't get to play. It's a the one thing that you want to have in minor league sports, and I think you'll attest to this, Scott, is that you need certain things to make your organization or the league solid. And one of the things is have a solid league, have a solid location, and have solid ownership. And with that being said, the teams that we have in our league possess all three, and such as the Salina Liberty. It makes it a great league. It's a league that it's a league that we're trying to get athletes out of here. And what I mean by that, it's a developmental league, not only for us but for coaches as well. For the players as well as the coaches, we want them to go to another level. That's the reason that we recruit them. Yes, do we want to win championships? Absolutely. Do we have to win games? You don't win games, you get fired. So those are the items that we want to, is when we recruit athletes in the entire league. Is it very competitive? Absolutely. I mean, just the champions of 2 years ago, the Duke City Gladiators out of Albuquerque, they moved up to the IFL, the Indoor Football League, in which I coached with in Colorado, but they didn't get to play because the season was canceled. The difference is just in each of the leagues is just some level of talent, not across the board, just some of it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the arena football leagues per se. Many years ago when I was living in Detroit, I had an opportunity to cover the Detroit Drive. I enjoyed the watching the Arena League because it's fast-paced, it's high-scoring, and the quarterback play. Why don't you comment on each of those, and then we'll go deeper into the Arena Football League, if you may.
Oh, talk about all the time. People will believe, and there's been great athletes who have moved up to the NFL, to this Canadian Football League, from leagues such as, and I don't mean that as disrespect, but our leagues such as the Indoor Football League and the Championship Indoor Football League to the Canadian Football League and the NFL. Myself here in Colorado, we moved up Mario Henderson. Mario Henderson, if people remember, Mario Henderson was a first-round draft choice, offensive tackle from Florida State University. After the strike year, then he ate himself out of the league. He came to us about 345. He got down to 310, and within 5 games, about a month after he dropped that weight and got back to his NFL weight, he was gone. Marty Marquette out of University of South Carolina. When I picked him up from the airport, he told me he never lost a race. And I looked at him, and he was about 5'10", 175. And he's a DB, and he was a track runner there as well at his college. And he played for us for 4 games, drafted to the CFL. Danny Mason, we picked him up halfway through the season in 2015. Halfway through it. And in fact, he was, and I'll bring up another name, Joe Thornton, but he was Joe Thornton's backup, so they were both linebackers. He gets signed by Denver, plays for about 4 years in the NFL. Gabe Napton, he went to Wyoming, did his great football player, has a motor like him on anything. He played for the 1 season, got signed by the CFL. Chauncey Allegre out of LSU, played for us 1 year, got signed. And then Joe Thornton, it did take Joe Thornton 3 years, middle linebacker. And he finally got signed as well. But same with all these names, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's just giving them an opportunity to move up to get these athletes to come and play.
So how do you like the fast pace of the indoor game?
I love it. It's a challenge. And the reason it's fast-paced, it's still football, but people have to realize, Scott, that you're having these type of athletes, NFL, speed, size, skill NFL athletes playing on a 50-yard goal line to goal line field and 28 yards wide, and they can chew up that field very, very, very fast.
Oh yeah. Well, so
offensively and defensively, and somebody makes a little mistake on a kickoff, that'll go to the house as well. So that aspect I got, but I mean, that's the reason it's so high scoring. It becomes a challenge to coach.
I can imagine. Yeah, if you're a defensive coordinator and you're dealing with a high-scoring game,
my gosh,
I can only imagine the logistics where I'm wondering if I'm going to get a job because it's high-scoring, but then everybody's got to give you the benefit of the doubt. Well, it's Arena League. You're 50 yards less than the normal NFL.
Oh.
So how do you like the high-scoring games in the Arena League?
As long as I'm on top, as long as I win it.
That's funny. Well,
if I win it, I enjoy the heck out of them, and they're exciting. And I mean, you're working. I mean, it's like any level that you're working at. I mean, coach is out there working. I'm working on plays for him. He's going to ask me for some plays that's going to work or what has worked. It's fun and it's challenging. The high scoring games. It's a shootout, and you know it. You better not lose a possession, and you better score on each and every one of possessions, because for some reason, who's your opponent is doing the same thing as you, and they have a vibe on what you're doing defensively, and that's the reason they're scoring just as much as you are.
Well, I've always been a firm believer that if you can kick through those narrow outrights, you should get an opportunity in the NFL. As I've always seen it, because you're pinpoint accurate there.
I've had outstanding kickers, Scott.
Really?
Just incredible guys making 53-yarders, and I've had some of them, yes. And I always ask why. And it's just like anything. It's just like all these other ball players. It's the time, the place where they're at. Do they get a look? And they might.
Well, look at it this way, Coach, and I never thought I'd utilize this analogy, but when it comes to kicking in the Arena Football League or Indoor Football League, I remember a long time ago I owned a golf club called the Big Bertha, and they had that little line down there that if you hit it on that line, you were going to hit the ball straight where you wanted to. And if you're a kicker and you hit it straight, you're going to make it. If you don't, especially with a narrower goalpost, it's another story. But I think about my Big Bertha days. So when we talk about quarterback, well, now you can start thinking about this, Coach. Okay, when you talk to your players, I'm going to give you some advice from a guy who's never been a football coach, okay, but's only watched a million games over the years, so it seems like anyways, whether it's college, high school, or whatever. Think about the Big Bertha, for crying out loud, when kicking the football through an Arena Football League goalpost. Hit it straight. Easier said than done, right? So there you go. Big Bertha, you can have that one. Take it with you.
I'm going to write it down.
Please do. So, all right, let's talk about quarterback play. I think a lot of people, when they look at any time you're dealing with indoor football, the one that stands out is Kurt Warner from the Iowa Barnstormers, who led the Rams to the Super Bowl title a few years back. Do you often use Kurt Warner as an example when you're talking to your quarterbacks? Hey, Kurt Warner came and played indoor football, and look where he ended up. Albeit, he's a poster child, so to speak, Coach.
Absolutely. Back then, Gabe Parnelli, he was a coach in the Arena Football League from Denver when he was doing his thing there in Iowa, and what he did and learned from that and took it to the NFL. But once again, I mean, Latino, Anglo-Saxon, anything, he had all the tools. He just never got a look. I think he went to Iowa or somewhere. I forget where he went, and that's no disrespect to Kurt, but I can get where he went almost. But him fighting through all that, him sacrificing his family, him say, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to keep trying this, because I believe he got cut in the NFL and then came back to Arena Football and then salvaged his career. I mean, I use him all the time.
You know, it's amazing. Let's talk about. I want to. You talked about Canadian Football League, which is a predominantly passing league. Do you find that you've produced a lot of good prospects for the CFL since they're ingrained in the fast pace and the fact that the Canadian football, I mean, don't get me wrong, the NFL has become a passing league, but it's always been a predominant balance between the rush and the pass, where the Canadian has always been more pass-oriented. So how would you like, again, the comparison of sending your players to the Canadian League versus the NFL?
Well, the comparison is hard to do. The reality of it, the Canadian Football League is more suitable to the style of play that we're doing in the indoor football league, being that we do have two high motion people that are coming downhill, that the defensive backs know how to handle the high motion, that it is a passing league. So there's not that much running, but there is still that aspect that you still have to defend and also block for.
Right.
The NFL, it's a transition. It's an easy transition for the athletes to make because they already did a majority of their athletic career is play normal football. The big transition for the athletes is becoming an indoor football league player and maybe a Canadian football player. That is it's a learning period. I'm not saying a transition period, but just a learning period, because once they got it, they got it. Many of them.
Okay, when you identify playmakers in the indoor football league, you know, and prospects, why don't you find out and analyze different positions where they usually come from?
As far as localities or where?
Yeah, I mean, do you find yourself developing a lot of wide receivers, offensive linemen? Where do you develop the most talent that would definitely find itself going to the next level? I mean, I know wide receivers are always a commodity. I know that's, after all, your league is a passing league, and of course every now and then that quarterback comes out. But do you find that you develop a lot of linemen, defensive and offensive linemen? What positions give you the most development?
For us, we've had Coach O'Neill and myself have had just a run of great quarterbacks. Did they go up to the other level? No. Did we want them to? Yes. Offensive linemen have been incredible. Yes, they've gotten looks. And one of the things, too, Scott, is we were the IFL at that time, before the Arena Football League was still going on. We sent 3, 4, 5 people from our team up to when the Arena Football League was still going strong, in which a lot of them were offensive linemen. Not too many receivers. The ones that we sent up as an organization, as a staff, I would say would be the O-linemen and our defensive ends. They were just playmakers, very special individuals, hard workers, and it's not to say that our wide receivers or running backs or quarterbacks couldn't have played at that level. They just didn't get the opportunity. Fair
enough. Okay, so you've taught. Let's talk about a few of your coaching stops, Coach. You coached for the Colorado Ice, the Colorado Crush, and now you're at Salina Liberty. Tell me about your experience with the Ice, and I have a couple of questions pertaining to the Colorado Crush. Start with the Ice.
Sure. The Colorado Ice, when I was just looking for a job, a coaching job, a good friend of mine who I coached high school football with, who's been in the indoor industry and indoor coaching for a long time, his name's Colin Sanders. He knew that I wanted to do it. He even knew I wanted to do it about 5 years ago when he was the head coach for the Omaha Beef. And he offered me the job to become the defensive back coach at that time for the Colorado Ice. And I worked with him for many years.
Okay, so then let's go ahead. I'm sorry, continue.
And then once things transitioned, had the opportunity and still do to this day, coaching with Haran O'Neill. Haran O'Neill, he's out of Central Michigan, where he went to college but played professional football for the Jaguars and the Bears, the Chicago Bears. He went to Wyoming Cavalry for a year and then got hired as the head coach at Billings Outlaws, and where he won 3 national titles. We were fortunate enough to get him because of a tornado that happened in Billings, and then they decided to fold the team, so he was available. We brought him in as a defensive coordinator, and the next year he became my head coach, and I've been with him now going on 10 years.
Very good. So let's talk about another stop you had, the Colorado Crush. Now, I do know that John Elway, once upon a time, was owner of that. So tell me, did you work with John Elway, or did you or did you come a little bit later?
We came later. What we did as an organization, once we were the Colorado Ice, we figured out to just help out sales, sponsorship, ticket sales, get the metropolitan area involved in driving up to Loveland to watch us play, to change the name back to the Colorado Crush, which is universal. Everybody knows that that's an indoor football team, and it did help out. And then was Coach Witt there, and I worked with some great people there as well.
So what were your dealings like with John Elway? Did you have many?
He's just he's an acquaintance. I've had the pleasure of meeting him at some social events. When his son Jack Elway was the quarterback at Cherry Creek High School. At that time, I was the defensive back coach for Montbello High School, and we knew each other by acquaintance. So we would always talk when we seen each other or competed against each other on 7-on-7s or game day. Those items, and usually anytime that I do call John or want, and never ask, but just to go to camp or something and drive up there, he's very accommodating with that.
Yeah, I had a chance to see John Elway win. I've covered 4 Super Bowls, and I covered Super Bowl 33, and actually talked to John when he was the quarterback of the Broncos. And the one question I asked him, and he really gave a nice smile when I did ask him, really seems like a really nice guy, and I think he's a really good football guy. But I asked John Elway at the time, when you look back at your career, John, aren't you glad that you went ahead and orchestrated that trade from the Baltimore Colts at the time to the Broncos? And you know what? He gave me the response, and body language and facial expressions can say everything. He was glad that he had. I posed that question because he forced his way out of the Baltimore Colts. Everybody knows that Robert Irsay was a first-class alcoholic, and he ended up making his way to Denver, and the rest is history in terms of his legacy with the Denver Broncos. But yeah, John Elway, to me, will always go down as one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen because he was mobile and he had a heck of an arm. And I'm glad that the Broncos figured out you needed a running game with Terrell Davis, okay, so that John Elway didn't have to do it all by himself. So
I totally agree. I'll just make this statement, but Patrick Mahone, I had the pleasure to watch. John is a year younger than me, but so I had the pleasure of watching him throughout his career in Denver and the unbelievable, spectacular things he did as a football player and a quarterback. And I'm going to go out on the line and just say it. Patrick Mahone reminds me of a young John Elway.
That's fair. I mean, I was happy to see John Elway retire on top. That to me is a great thrill. Anytime you go to a Super Bowl, there's always a chance somebody will retire on top. And what's even more interesting is that John Elway and Barry Sanders were inducted in the same Hall of Fame class. So a running back that I covered full time with Barry, and then John Elway to see him at the end, that was unbelievable. So, yeah. So, all right, let's talk about the Salina Liberty a little bit. Explain more about Salina Liberty, where it's at, and, let's give Salina an opportunity to inform people about everything about it.
You betcha. Salina is right here in central Kansas. We're right off I-70 and I-35. right in the middle of it. It's about 60,000 people, great community, unbelievable people here in Salina. The Salina Liberty has been, well, we would have been this year our 5th year, but they played 4 years. The first 2 years they struggled. At that time, then the ownership group reached out to Coach O'Neill, who has a track. Well, he's the second winningest, I believe the second winningest. I could be wrong. The second or the third winningest coach in the indoor football league, in which we came from when he was in Billings and I was in Colorado. Won championships, and we had success in Colorado. They reached out to him when he was coaching in Dodge City. At that time, he coaching. They were in the playoffs. All that after the season was done, then they contacted him, and he was hired. And once he was hired, he contacted me, and I said absolutely. Came here, found out this community is unbelievable. Had to do some convincing of the media, because they were 3-13 before Coach O'Neill and myself came. 3-13. So the community just wasn't that open-armed to anything. They're kind of tired of losing. We went the first year, and we went to the conference finals and lost in the last play of the game. That was the first year. The second year, which would have been 2019, we went to the championship and lost to the Duke City Gladiators once again, and should have won that game, but we lost to them on the last play of the game. So we've changed the climate around here. People want to come to the game. People are excited about the games. They can't wait to when we starting, accepted our athletes. It's just a whole different culture now here in Salina about the minor league indoor football team that they have here. They're excited about it and very proud of it.
So where is exactly Salina located at in terms of Manhattan, Kansas, I believe Lawrence, Kansas?
Yeah, it's I would say about 40 miles off of I-70, east of Manhattan, off of I-35 from Wichita, about an hour and 30 minutes from there. And then from Hayes, it's about an hour and a half. So it's right in the middle of Kansas.
Wow. So we're definitely in the heartland. So
yes, it's in the middle.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, they embrace that team. More power to it. I've always liked small communities that embrace their teams, and
it's been fun
if they do. So a few more questions here, Coach. Really having a good time. Hope you are as well. So, do you have a desire to coach in the NFL?
Absolutely. I mean, if I would be a hypocrite to sign athletes and give them the desire or the avenues of what they want to do or can do to get to the NFL if I don't have it myself. A realistic, I mean, maybe some time ago I could, but and I tell my athletes the same thing. Each and every year that we don't get picked up, there's 300 other individuals who are looking for the same job that we are. And I'd be real with them. So whatever you're going to get to the NFL, you better make a splash. And when you make that splash, you better keep it.
So have you ever been approached by anybody, whether it's at a major college or the NFL, to interview for any of these jobs?
At the college level, yes. But at the professional level, I was always just been an advisor, maybe ask a couple questions. Nothing to the adventure of sitting down and let me see your resume and go from there.
Okay, but you say you have had feelings and inquiries at the college level. Do you care to?
Absolutely, yes.
Do you care to elaborate on?
It didn't pan out.
Right. Do you care?
But it was worth the interviews and it was worth the conversation, and it got me a lot of other places that I would have never ever have been.
But you don't care to mention where some of those interviews? I think it's pretty interesting to find out who had interest in you.
I just because I didn't get them, and I like them people and all that. I don't want to really just put that out there, but it was a great experience.
That's fair. Okay, so with that said, what type of advice do you have to Latino coaches getting into business?
I just keep on the grind. Make sure when a door's open, knock it down. Take advantage of every situation you have, and let's just keep working at what we're doing, because it's not easy, and sometimes it's a little bit more difficult than other times, and sometimes it might be a little bit easier to get in that door. But once you get in the door, make sure you knock it down and you make yourself and your family and everybody proud, because I can't wait to meet you when you do it.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, with every opportunity that, I don't care whether you're Latino, African American, Caucasian, whatever, I'm always a firm believer that a coach is a coach being a mentor is a mentor, and you can find mentors and coaches anywhere. It's just about what you have inside your heart as well as your head, and making sure that you have the best interests of the people that you're looking to become a really good role model for sure. And I think that, I'm glad that you have taken the time out tonight here on the Sports Exchange to inform and embrace a lot of young Latinos and Hispanic types of individuals to pursue this as a legitimate, real career opportunity, Coach. It's really been fun being able to open it. Any other things that you would like to add to this broadcast?
I want to thank you for the format, Scott. I was very excited about it, and I can't wait for people to hear about it. And let's just go. Let's hope that we have a football season and live life as we know it.
Well, George, you brought up an interesting point, Coach. What about COVID-19? How much is that affecting what you're doing right now? Thanks for bringing that up.
A lot. They canceled our 2020 season. The nice thing, and I brought it up earlier about how strong our league is we immediately moved on to 2021, in which the whole league has progressed to secure their sponsorships, secure their season tickets, secure their arenas, and just find dates that are going to work out. We got to find out another thing about this is when college football is going to start. Are they going to play in the spring? Are they going to play, in the fall? That affects a lot of us, all of us, for the fact that we use college officials for our games. So we'd have to move our games either Friday or Sunday or something of that nature, so we can still have the quality of officiating that this league deserves.
Yeah, so do you find that a lot of times that during this down period that you are more or less planning for next year, since there really isn't a 2020?
Oh, I did it today.
Right. Okay.
I did it today.
And tell the listeners where your hometown is.
Oh, well, my hometown, everybody out there, I'm very proud of it, is Monte Vista, Colorado, in Colorado, in the southern part of the state, and in the San Luis Valley. That's where I went to high school. I'm very proud of it. But as everybody knows in Colorado here, basically when anybody asks me, I just, when they ask me where you're from, I say basically the whole Front Range, from Pueblo to Fort Collins.
Very good. Well, let me, so why don't you let everybody know how they can reach you and get a hold of you in case they ever want to approach you. I know that I was fortunate enough to come in contact with you on LinkedIn, and I've really enjoyed working with LinkedIn because I've met some unbelievable, great people, you being the latest in a long line of them. But how can people reach Coach George Martinez?
They can reach me at CoachOhio at gmail.com.
Very good. So, all right. So I'll let everybody know how they get a hold of us, Coach. All right. So let me get this grocery list out there. You can reach us on Twitter at Tribune South. You can follow us on Facebook, South Florida Tribune, Instagram, South Florida Tribune. I do have a YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. Coach Martinez. When I get out to your part of the country, I'll definitely make sure that we have an opportunity to do one together. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Our email address here is southfloridatribune@gmail.com. My LinkedIn, you can reach me at Scott Morganroth. And, of course, you are listening to the Sports Exchange on the WSAN network. And these shows can be found we're on the southfloridatribune.com. And you can also subscribe to us through Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts. So, there's plenty of opportunities to access us. And once again, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, that this show is on the Sports Exchange, and it will also be aired on No Limits as well. So on behalf of Coach George Martinez, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Badmouth. Thank you for joining us tonight. And once again, I am really hoping that more minorities from are involved in coaching, and it's great to bring awareness to Hispanics and Latinos looking to break some ground in the area. So, Coach, thanks for being on the broadcast.
You're very welcome, Scott.
We appreciate it.